second question would be, how can you prevent gynecological problems? So what is the prevention remedies for this?
So I'll give you my version. I'll be very happy to hear your version because I have a lot of respect for, you know, the doctors like you, yourself, and my team of doctors who've gone the extra mile to preserve this ancient knowledge. It's a 5,000-year-old science, and it could have only been preserved from a person to another person through oral tradition of teaching. How can we avoid gynecological disorders? You know, number one is food, and number two is lifestyle. Food is the most important thing, and you know, the number three is emotions. Food is the most important thing because, you know, people think if they have a disorder, they must go to a doctor and start eating medicines, drugs, steroids, and antibiotics. But you can only eat medicines for 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, 30 days, 3 months, 6 months. And you can choose to have medicines for 10 years, but that's not the solution to your problem.
Exactly.
You eat food 3 times a day. You've eaten 1 million meals throughout your lifetime. If I ask you to calculate how many meals have you eaten, you can't give me a number. Food. The reason also why I became a food health coach is because food can be the source of nutrition, source of life.
Yes.
It can also be poisonous or viruddhahar when it's consumed in wrong combinations.
Right.
Your first source of disease, therefore, is your own food.
Right.
And Nijaroga and Agantaroga, we say 90% of the diseases are caused due to internal factors, due to the way you're consuming food and your lifestyle and your habits. 20% or maybe 10 to 20% is caused due to Agantaroga external factors, which could be environmental factors like pollution, accidents, events, pandemics, and such. Okay, but we don't have a pandemic that has created PCOS and PCOD. PCOS and PCOD is purely a lifestyle disorder. Gynecological disorders are purely caused due to wrong food habits. So the first thing to do is stop eating the estrogen of another animal. You're not able to digest your own estrogen. So the first thing you do is you stop consuming dairy products. And dairy products is one of the biggest causes because nowadays cows are kept in factories, not in farms.
Right.
When they were kept in a farm, they would lick the hand of the farmer and they would get hormones which gave messages to the cow on what kind of nutritional deficiency his master had. And he would create a milk formulated for his farmer, for his master.
Right.
But now we don't have direct physical contact with the cow from whom we're drinking.
It's all commercial now. Yeah.
And number two, the cow is not even kept happy. He's kept in a factory where they're forcibly attached to machines to suck milk out of them, which sometimes sucks blood and pus out of them because it doesn't stop. It's a machine. Two, they're separated from their calves. They're kept in confined spaces and tortured, and they go through trauma, which makes them release cortisol into the blood as well, which is cortisol into their blood, which again is released in the milk also. So at the end of the day, we're consuming another animal's cortisol, trauma, emotional, mental agony, and pus and blood and diseases. If we have diseases, they have more. And when they're artificially inseminated every year and forced to give birth, the uterus is ruptured beyond repair. It could be cancerous also. And you're consuming cancer cells. So the main cause of PCOS and PCOD, and if you look at the trend in India, it was only after the white revolution, the milk revolution, the rise in gynecological disorders happened. It didn't exist like that. Infertility was not an issue in a country like India. Like my grandmother had 10 kids and she was perfectly fine.
Exactly.
2 passed away, immediately after being born because they didn't have access to nutrition or whatever. But 8 kids survived and did perfectly well.
Yeah, exactly.
She was able to give birth to 10 kids in 10 years and absolutely no damage to her health. In fact, she outlived some of her kids. She outlived some of her children. Her children didn't live long because of bad lifestyle choices. Eating too much fat and oily foods and deep fried foods and unhealthy foods. It was a lifestyle choice. She had a perfectly great lifestyle. So the milk revolution started. They started commercializing the production of milk. They brought in Jersey cows into India. And Jersey cow milk is not digestible by the Indian digestive system. Our body is designed to digest the milk only from the Gir cow, which is native to India. And it's natural to our topography and geographic condition. So first is the Jersey cow milk. Second is the commercialization of milk. Third is the trauma and the cortisol that we're consuming. And the fourth is, of course, all the red meat, white meat products, seafood and eggs that we're consuming. You don't need it. You're consuming the estrogen and the testosterone and the fecal matter and the cortisol and the cancer cells in those animals. How do you know that animal didn't have cancer when it was slaughtered?
Exactly, yeah.
Right? This is the main cause of gynecological disorders. Literally, the root cause of gynecological disorders is only your food. Genetic plays a very small role. Again, this is my theory with genetic disorders, and I believe a lot of people agree with this. Our DNA carries information about our parents, grandparents, ancestors, and all the diseases they have gone through. Our DNA carries that information. So our DNA also carries information of autoimmune disorders. Yeah. But when we eat something wrong, which is plasticinated, like plastic, like, microwaving food in a plastic container, releases plastic into the food, which is an artificial ingredient which enters our body, interferes with our DNA, interferes with our central nervous system, and triggers that information of an autoimmune disorder or a genetic disorder, and we end up having it. So, we analyzed a few cases, like, of patients who had multiple sclerosis. Parents didn't have it. Grandparents didn't have it. But someone in the 3 generations above had it. Or 4, 5, or 6. So it's an autoimmune disorder information that was carried in the DNA. So when we have wrong foods, we trigger that information from our gene pool. So food, your oral consumption of, your breathing, pollution, if you're breathing pollution, your products, if you're using a lot of deodorants that have aluminum in it, that can also cause benign lumps. And in fact, I had 2 surgeries to remove fibrocystic benign lumps from our body, caused due to aluminum in deodorants as a young girl, which I didn't know. Now I realize. And I was able to avoid my 3rd surgery by simply using castor oil, Karpuradi Thailam, to apply on the lump and make the lump dissolve. Luckily for me, it was not cancerous. But had it been at a young age, it could have been very traumatic for me. Yeah. Now I look back, the solution for all of these diseases was there in the kitchen and was there in all these therapeutic oils. I didn't have to go too far.
Right. Actually, that is very true, actually. Yeah.
This is literally, I think, a boon or a bane, the knowledge and the information. You can either turn it to your advantage or end up being a victim of your situation and continue complaining. People say genetic diseases, it's actually hereditary diseases. That's the word they use. Yeah, and that word doesn't exist. It means your parents had a bad eating habit or a lifestyle habit. You continued following that habit and you got the same results.
Exactly.
That's what hereditary means. It doesn't mean that your parents gave you the disease. It means that you inherited the eating habits, the bad lifestyle patterns, and you got the same results.
Yeah, right. And whatever disease they were going to get it in like 50s, they are getting it in 25 or 30 years of age. It is not like they're getting prolonged or anything like that. Because of the lifestyle, it is getting earlier, in fact.
And then we call it hereditary, which is a very wrong way of explaining things. It only means that you're careless and you're unwilling to change your lifestyle or unwilling to work hard. Like change is uncomfortable. For us to change our lifestyle, our eating habits, our patterns, something that we grew up with for 20 years, 30 years is our comfort zone. But suddenly if I tell you, stop drinking milk, you'll be like, but I had it for 30 years. Why should I stop? Change is uncomfortable. But change is the only constant. And it's the only constant of human evolution. We have stopped evolving as human beings. We've stopped making intelligent choices, which is why we are now plagued with diseases.